Hey, Spuddies, Potato McWhiskey here, and today I want to talk a little bit about the Victoria 3 leak that happened. Just to give you like the briefest of overview, what happened is that some people in the community who had access to the beta builds decided to stream their gameplay. Their pre-release beta alpha, whatever the level the game is at, to stream that to other players over Discord. And then another person decided to actually just release the full game, just to give out this incomplete build. And I want to talk about that a little bit. And I want to talk about why I am not happy about it, why I think it's kind of really shows how the Paradox community has changed away from what I remember, back around the launch of CK2 and up to like EU4 and well into EU4's sort of heyday. What I remember the Paradox community and how I feel alienated from the community because of it. But just on a general basis, leaking information about a game is generally bad for the game's development itself. And it's for the simple fact of that, like when a leak happens, it like has to be responded to in some way. Like Paradox hasn't said anything publicly, but obviously there are probably things being done behind the scenes. It's going to hurt the team's morale. It's going to, developers usually, right? The people who make these games are incredibly passionate. They care about these games so much. They check Reddit, they check Facebook, they check the forums, they check everywhere. And to the point where they probably sometimes have to like almost exercise some self-control and self-care and avoid those places. This is why you see developers talk about engaging with the community can be a very painful and disturbing affair. And now imagine you add onto the top of that people have actually played your beta game, your unreleased game, the thing that's not ready before it's even ready, and they're posting like critiques of the game. They're posting about what's broken. They're talking about how the AI is bad. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like the AI is bad because the game is unfinished. Like, I don't know what you expected. Yeah, and now you add all that instead of like the conversation being useful about people like, oh, I don't know how I feel about the war system, or I'm not sure about, I wonder how these market mechanics will work, instead of it being sort of a positive thing where you can gather ideas and maybe discover ways that you might tweak the game based on what people are speculating on. Instead, it becomes all community discussion is like a monument to every not even mistake that you've made, but like half-finished thing that you haven't quite managed to get around to fixing. That's going to be like incredibly demoralizing for the people working on the game, and I think it's going to have a bad outcome for the development on the game. I think this has hurt the game, which tells me that like this leaking and stuff like that wasn't done by people who are passionate about the game. Because I used to be that the Paradox community, we loved the games, we loved the company, we loved the people who made the games. We were excited for new information, we were excited for new stuff. And it seems to me that this feels like this was people who believe that the game will never live up to their idea of the game, and they just want to get their hands on the leak so that they can trash the game and be correct and be like, yep, I was right, the game is terrible, and then they can write it off, and they can do it publicly so they can lord over their little ego about how right they were about how bad this game is going to be. Dude, I don't care about your opinion. I already know I'm going to like the game. I don't know about you, but like when I can tell when I'm going to like things. I'm going to like Victoria 3. I've been waiting for it since I found Victoria 2, dude. I've been waiting for this game for so incredibly long. It was actually a meme on the Paradox community to be like, okay, when is Victoria 3 coming? Like even Johan joked about it on stage one time, and it was like a huge thing. Everyone was like, oh, maybe he's actually doing it. Is he going to make the game? Or was it Shams when he used to work there? I can't remember. Someone made the joke on stage anyway. And, it just really sucks. It really, really sucks for the developers in that way. And so like exercise a bit of empathy here. Like, if you see posts wherever on Reddit or something, just downvote it, get it out of there. And I don't mean to like, I'm not calling to brigade or anything. I'm not pointing out a specific post. I'm just saying like, listen, I don't think we should talk about the leak. I don't think we should look at the leak. I don't think we should watch it. We should give the developers the time and space that they need to make the game good, and don't let your perception of the game be colored by like this pre-release leak. Like, you're going to get a chance to play the game. You're going to get a chance to see people play the game when it comes out. Like, there will be time to actually see the finished product. What we're looking at right now is it's like critiquing a movie before like the special effects and the composition and the CGI is done, like before any of the post-production, editing, color correction. It's like, dude, the thing's not ready. It's like it's halfway. It's not like we're only getting towards the finish line here. You can't critique an unfinished movie as if it's a finished movie. And I'm really, really tired. Like, I really hate going to the subreddit now because every other post is like, you know, it's just like, oh, my opinion on the beta build after spending 6 hours with it, or here's why Warfare sucks, or whatever random ass opinion about the game. It's like, dude, I don't need your opinion. You're no one. I don't know what your motivations are for sharing your opinion. Do you just want like internet clout on Reddit? I don't care. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, yeah. So that was my recommendation. Would be, if that sort of stuff bothers you too, do as I do. Downvote it, hide it, ignore it. It's annoying as hell to have to deal with that going to the subreddit because every discussion is about the leak now. But yeah, I just think that sort of thing like super poisons the well for community discussion. It super makes it like it just kind of sucked the fun out of interacting with the game now, because rather than being like it's like I feel like, you know, my innocence has been robbed. I know that's like more like an analogy, but like before we were able to be like, ooh, I wonder how this is going to work. And I kind of got, you know, we got that because participating in the hype of a game is fun. It's fun to sit around and talk about the game. Don't get whipped up in it. Like, don't get crazy about it, but like be like, ooh, I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited about it, you know? Maybe another analogy I could use here is like when I was coming, you know, when I knew we were going on holiday somewhere, I was like, oh, I can't wait to go down to like Wexford or something and play on the beach. Like, I knew, like, knowing something is coming is part of the experience itself. And, you know, if you just were like, you know, if I was like, oh, I can't wait to go to the beach, and you just showed me a video of what the beach actually was, it was like a bunch of rocks and like some, you know, seagulls just like eating, you know, tourists' chips. I'd be like, Jesus, you've ruined this, and now I have nothing to look forward to. You've robbed me of that. And that's kind of how I feel a little bit. I feel like I'm still going to allow myself to be a little bit hyped, a little bit anticipatory, you know, kind of looking forward to the game. But I feel like that has been robbed and poisoned in a little bit, you know. I feel like that's been taken from me a little bit. And that kind of has me a little bit upset for myself personally, you know. I don't like it. I want Victoria 3 to be the best game that it ever could be, and I don't think the leak serves that. That's my take. I just don't think the people who leaked it, whether they did it just like out of maliciousness, I don't think the people who did this liked the game. I think the people who did this hate the game. That would be my take. They want people to see how bad it is. Maybe like, or how quote unquote bad is it? When I say bad, what I mean here is like from their twisted perspective, nothing the game will ever do will be good, and they want to be proven right about the game being bad. Just to clarify what I'm saying there. Because I think the game will be good. I mean, like, it'll be good as far as I'm concerned. Because I know I love Victoria 2. I play so much of it. It's a game I come back to at least a few times a year. And I know I'm going to like Victoria 3 because it is fixing all of the things I don't like about Victoria 2. I don't care if the warfare system kind of sucks, right? Because I don't really care. I don't care. I don't want to micromanage an army, right? The game takes away micromanaging armies. It's already a 10 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. And it just, you know, and there's going to be consequences for this. There's going to be consequences, you know, if they can figure out who broke NDA, you know, that person might have consequences. Now, I don't know what Paradox is doing or what's happening behind the scenes. That's completely, you know, alien to me. That's you know, none of us can know what's going to happen. But, you know, I think in terms of consequences for community wide, I think it harms the relationship between Paradox and the wider community in a very real way. Like, there's going to be less trust towards the community from Paradox. You know, Paradox is the community is very intimate in a way that, you know, developers will jump on Reddit or on the forums and respond to direct questions or criticism, and they'll have a back and forth and talk to you. You know, some of these developers, you can actually just straight up go on Twitter and like send them DMs and ask them a couple of questions or like talk to them about games, and they're just people and they like talking and they will talk to you. Like, these are just people, man, that make this game. And now that relationship is going to be strained. They're going to be more guarded. They're going to be more careful. And I mean that on like an individual and a corporate level. This is going to have ramifications. Future testing relationships are going to be strained. We might not see as many people getting into betas. We might not see people outside of Paradox getting into betas. We might not. And that has huge ramifications for those games going forward, because the more people you have looking at a game, the more total feedback you can gather. And while not all feedback is necessarily useful, the more feedback you can get, the more likely is you have some useful piece of feedback and you can move things in the right direction. And so I hope I'm wrong about that part. I hope that this won't affect future games for Victoria or for Paradox or anything like that. But I can't help but feel that this is kind of like a turning point in, like I was saying earlier, this is a turning point in me really realizing that this isn't the Paradox community that I remember. This isn't the Paradox community where, you know, when a new DLC dev diary dropped, we were all really, really excited. Like, it's totally valid. Okay, let me just wind back here before I go off on this tangent here. It's totally valid to have some criticisms of Paradox, okay? It's totally valid. But I remember when the DLC model was praised, it was like, dude, this is so amazing. We get regular updates to a game that I love at a relatively cheap price. And now the conversation is like, this evil, disgusting, greedy corporation pumps out content for this game that they don't care about, constantly milking us for $20 every 3 months for this game. You know, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, dude, no, they're just making content for the game. You don't have to buy it on release, okay? Like, that's actually a valid option is for you. Like, if you don't like a piece of content, you can refund it and you can not buy it. And if you don't like the look of it, and if it's buggy, you can leave bad reviews. Like, there are things you can do for recourse. And there are areas where it's totally valid to criticize Paradox. But I think there's a difference between saying, like, this DLC sucked, I'm unhappy, I'm going to be a little bit more careful in future. And then there's like the extreme version where it's like Paradox are evil, they don't care about the community anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like you go to that level and that just becomes like, that's so draining. Because these are people that run these companies. These are humans. Like they're going to read that all the time and they're just not going to want to read it anymore. If you're being told that you're evil and stupid or you're cruel or you're greedy day in and day out, you're just going to stop engaging. You're going to stop reading it. And I don't think you necessarily will become more greedy or more vindictive or whatever, but you might care a little bit less. You might feel yourself a little bit detached because, like, I do think that this sort of stuff will contribute to greater burnout among the developers and people who work at Paradox. It's going to stress them out. It's going to make it harder. It's going to make the game worse, man. It is. I really do feel it, and I can't help but feel that I'm personally alienated from the Paradox community that I remember. The people who, you know, we would make edgy jokes, but we knew they were just edgy jokes. We you know, I can't help but feel there's been like this new wave of people who don't know that the edgy jokes are edgy jokes, and that makes me uncomfortable. I can't help but feel that there's another wave of people who, what's the word I'm looking for? They're like hate watchers, man. They actually just hate the games, but they're like addicted. They have like a pathological relationship with the games, and they take up so much community time and effort in terms of like constantly screeching about things. And I mean, like the way Johan is treated in the communities on some places, in particular on Reddit, like people just relentlessly shitting on the guy who has nothing more. Like he just wants to make really, really cool grand strategy games because he really, really likes them. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like this is like a watershed moment for me that really tells me that the community has changed and the community is a little bit more alien to me, and I don't feel like I belong as much, and I miss the old Paradox community. You know, I was going to go to Paradox Con the year before the pandemic, and I was super, super excited, and I couldn't wait to go, but I couldn't go because I got sick. And then obviously I've never been able to go, but now there's part of me that's like, man, is it even worth my time to go anymore? Like, are the people who are going to be there the people who I've always wanted to meet? Because I was broke, man, up until that one, and I never really got to go to like LANs or hang out with people who love the things that I do. And I can't help but that's, you know, maybe I'll go anyway and we'll see. But man, just like thinking about this whole thing just kind of feels gross. Just the way people are acting. The way no one's like talking about this side of things, about how the impact this is having on Paradox, the people of Paradox, how this is going to negatively impact the development of game. Maybe it won't negatively impact the game, but I think it could. And that's not what I want, because I love this game. I want this game to be the best game that it can be. And I know it sounds crazy to say you love a game, but like but I don't mean like I love it, like, but it's like I'm excited about it, I'm hyped about it, I want the game to be good. I want, you know what I mean? Like that's the place I'm talking, like, you know, that's the place I'm talking from. You get me? And I mean, as much as I want to play the leak and I want to play it and play, well, not necessarily play the leak, but I want to play Victoria 3 so much, I'm not going to play the leak. I'm not going to cover it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to ignore it when it comes up in discussion because I don't think it's good for the game. Anyway, that's my thoughts on things. Let me know what you guys think. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.